All right, in this lesson, we're going to look at a couple different variations of the G chord. Now, there are easier ways and different ways to play certain chords. You'll find it depends on the song that you're playing, and also depends on your own personal preference in terms of how you want to play certain chords. Some might feel better than others. So it is good to know different variations. You know, it's always good to just start with one variation, learn how to do that one really well, and then start implementing different ones. So with this G, it's sort of like a rock G, kind of an acoustic rock, and then also when you have an electric guitar, it's just like this nice power rock chord, you know, that became popularized in the 80s and 90s, and you still hear it to this day now. So what we're going to do, if you remember our original G chord, the way that we learned it was like this. All we're going to do for our variation, our first variation of the G chord, is just take your third finger, move it up or over to the third fret, so you're on the same fret but just different string, and then put your pinky right underneath that finger. So again, here's our original G. Take your third finger, move it up to the third fret of the second string, or the B string, and then take your pinky and add it to the third fret of the thinnest string, the E string. So all we're essentially doing is just this B string. Instead of playing an open B with our chord, now we're just adding this D. I've also seen some people play, and oftentimes I will, depending on the song, is I'll take my first finger off, and I'll actually use my second finger to mute the A string, just because sometimes I find certain notes a bit redundant. You don't always need them. I find that just kind of cleans it up, gives it a nice punch. So that's something you can do. Okay, that's one variation. Let's look at another variation of the G, which you will often see in folk music, and you'll see why in a second. The other variation is similar to our original G, but now we're going to use our second, third, and fourth fingers. Instead of our first three, we're going to use the next three, like that. Leaves our index finger open. And again, with your second finger, you can take that off, use your third finger to mute that A string. Doesn't really change the chord very much. I find that it improves it slightly, just to my ear anyway. So all we're doing is the same notes, but we're just using different fingers. The reason why this one is popular amongst folk artists or guitarists is because you can kind of add some different texture, different color to what you're playing. So there's your regular G. Or sometimes going back and forth from the C to the G makes it a heck of a lot easier when instead of going from this C to the original G, you kind of have to shift everything around. Now, you're just going from this C and just moving those two fingers over and then adding your pinky. So going from the C to the G makes it a little bit easier. But you do have to get used to using these fingers to play that G. It definitely took me some time to get it. Now I play all of those variations depending on the song. All right, have fun with those G chords, and we will see you in another lesson.